time. We're live.
My brother.
We're here. We're drinking Miller Lite.
When was the last time that we just drank Miller Lite? No gimmicks, no thematic tie-ins, no craft, no whiskey?
I feel like doing a thematic tie-in for this movie would be kind of weird. Part of the reason why I wanted to just do Miller Lite, because it's just like an American beer. You know, our characters in this movie are trying to live the American dream. And this just reminds me of the country, you know?
Blue-collar living.
Yeah. Something strange about just a Pilsner, just a Miller Lite.
See, you found a way to tie it all together.
Miller Lite, it's like baseline. You start there, you know. If you had to give Miller Lite a rating out of 10, where would you sit it?
On what kind of scale?
Okay, so if you like Le Fin du Monde being like a 9 or a 10, where would you have Miller?
I think it sits perfectly in the middle, like a 5. And
Really?
I don't mean that as like an unenjoyable 5.
Right.
It's just fine for hanging out, chilling, talking to somebody.
It's the baseline.
Crush like 3 to 5. Do you remember when we used to bring stuff like Rolling Rock or Stella Artois, Heineken? I couldn't tell you the last time that I deviated from Miller. Yingling is kind of my other go-to, and I don't get that very often.
We would change it up. Even if we have a thematic, you know, if we do like a whiskey or a sour, anything like that, we'd always have something else. And that something else would usually be something, you know, not standard. We do like Corona or like a Modelo Negra, you know, something a little different as our accompaniment. But tonight, just Miller Lite. To be honest with you, we have like 100 Miller Lights left over from this party, so they need to get drank somehow.
Well, you know, bringing them over here is a good way to do that.
Right. We're talking about Minari, man. I'm fucking terrified to have this conversation. Truth be told, I don't know.
Why is that? You think Getter's going to put the stomping on it?
I like have already accepted the fact that like, you know, it's a big possibility. But also like this is one of the few movies in the last couple years that have actually made me cry or like well up in some way. The only other one I can think about is like Everything Everywhere All at Once. And we'll get there. Similar kind of way they come to a, you know, climactic head, emotional head. Completely different. Like this movie's so grounded, but at the same time, you know, it doesn't happen very often for me.
I think we'll definitely get to the topic of the uptick in like Asian and Korean films that have kind of like been pushed to the forefront of the mainstream the last couple of years. Because I went from seeing 0 of these films to now I'm at like 20 probably.
Good. There's something about them, and it's something that's really missing from a lot of like just a standard American cinema, is that they really express like this sense of longing, quite unlike other things that are coming out now. I don't know, something I'm thinking about, like I have Perfect Days sitting at home right now waiting for me to watch it.
The Wim Wenders film. Yeah.
Right. And I know as soon as I do watch it, I'm going to be enriched.
It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah. It's just about a janitor. It's just about a normal dude's life. And it's funny, I for so long have felt that type of storytelling is some of my favorite, like especially even in books. I'll get like on a run of like sci-fi and fantasy books, and then I'm like burnt out. You know, I'm like, there's so much world building and this sense of scale and imagination, you know, that some of these authors put down on paper. And then like one of my first books that I fell in love with was a book called Stoner by John William.
Do I still have your copy of that book?
That was a gift copy. I'm not looking for it back.
You told me that before. I forgot about that.
But
I'll read it one of these days.
Well, that book is like, I don't know, 250-page book about an English professor in like the 50s and 60s. It's just a normal guy's life, but it's written in a way that makes him feel like fucking Superman. Like you're so invested in this guy's boring fucking life, a life of nothing, a like small scale, 0 stakes in terms of real impact on a world, but like big in his life. And it's like these love letters to like simple life. I just started East of Eden today, by John Steinbeck.
I heard that's great.
Yes. I love books like that, and particularly film, and it's not something that happens very often with American cinema. And something about like Korean or Japanese cinema has really enriched that side of storytelling for me, because I feel like they're the only culture that like really give love to it as of late.
Yeah, I can't think of like a genuine American film that gives that same sense of longing or like romanticism about these really small moments in life, lately at least.
Right. I hate talking about it because it is like such a perfect film. But like Moneyball is kind of that similar essence. And that movie is so much more Americanized. I mean, it's about fucking baseball.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's like fucking modern fucking progressive drone rock or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that felt, that added to a sense of Americana.
Yeah. That film has a very specific feeling about it that draws me in.
Right. And maybe that's my point. Something about Hollywood right now is I feel that every film that's being talked about right now is just like some fucking experimental wild shit. Like, I don't know. It's either like Marvel movies, Godzilla, and then like Poor Things. It's like and obviously Dune just came out, but
it's kind of hard to sell these slice of life
right,
movies.
it is. I mean, they're obviously Oscar bait award films, and speaking of Moneyball, like fucking Brad Pitt's an executive producer on this.
Yeah, I saw that. Mm-hmm. Kind of an odd choice.
I see it. That's our Moneyball man. I think Brad Pitt as a producer / director role is something I need more of. I would love to see him direct some fucking great movies.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if he had before, but I don't think he has.
I don't believe so. He could do it.
He's getting older. He needs to
getting older.
Do it soon if he's going to.
He is getting older. He's 60 now.
Jesus, really?
Yeah. There's something really special about this film, to say the least. And it does kind of perfect the sentiment of kind of what Asian American filmmaking is starting to become. And I'm really excited that Steven Yuen is like really graduated far beyond like The Walking Dead, because everybody, that's where he came from.
Shit, out of that entire cast, he's probably done the most well at everybody.
Right. And he was like obviously one of the most beloved characters in that series, which I didn't really follow that show at past season 4.
Boring.
I was in high school when that show was going on, so
I tried a few times.
Right. As a high schooler though, that show was different. That was like I was getting ready to check out, Breaking Bad kind of thing.
I had already watched Breaking Bad, so I couldn't go to The Walking Dead after that.
I've been really wanting to watch Better Call Saul again.
I've been starting to miss it again, for sure.
Isn't it like the best fucking TV that there's ever been in the last 10 years?
Very few things come even remotely close.
I've been meaning to watch Succession. I really have been, but...
Great fucking show.
Oh, I don't know if I can do it.
No?
I'm not mentally ready for somewhat of the dryness of that show, because to me it looks very dry. I mean, I shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but it seems a little distant.
The subject matter is for sure very dry, but it's a very juvenile and mean-spirited show in dialogue.
I don't know. See, when you say that though, like, okay, Elizabeth's been watching Bridgerton, which is like a London set, like romance drama, and I'm sitting here like, I can't. This is not TV to me. It's TV to her. It's fucking porn to me, but TV to her. I don't know that I can do the family drama.
It's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I know that it's like gonna fucking make me lose hope in humanity, which is like the last fucking thing that I need right now.
Every episode of that show, like the final 20 minutes, like makes my heart race. Like it's frequently kind of anxiety inducing.
Let me tell you about anxiety inducing. I have fucking PTSD from the mid-season finale of Better Call Saul season 6. We went to fucking Bon Iver that night and then watched the mid-season finale, and I had a panic attack in your kitchen for like 20 minutes. And I'm always thinking about poor Howard Hamlin. I'm always thinking about poor Howard.
What a great night that was.
Oh, it's a night I'll never forget, just for like those two events alone.
Look at us spinning off topic already.
Yeah. There is something really special about movies like this because personally, I think I've really been in a rut lately because of we're getting ready to have an election and there's a lot of economic uncertainty right now, which look, historically speaking, every 4 years before the election, the economy's in a downturn. Then the next president gets in there and then they fucking get the money printers going. They increase liquidity in markets and then, you know, everybody's happy and ready to go. I'm okay with that. But like there's war going on right now in the world, you know, trying to be a well-informed citizen and also just like absorbing the fucking toxin of the world, trying to make an informed decision is fucking exhausting. And a movie like this, albeit can be a little intense at times, I think in the end it like really comes to a crescendo and like expresses like some really raw emotion, and that's fucking great to me. And it's extremely enriching because it's about humanity.
When it comes to these slice of life films, it's really hard to like stand out from the pack. What do you think it is that makes this one above and beyond other films of the same genre?
Cinematography, score, something about this American dream. They're trying to make it. It's a very grounded story. Kind of what makes it stand out to me. Yes, it's a beautiful film in terms of its visuals and its sound, but the way we get there is like really powerful to me. Like I think it's like one of the best scripts that we've done on the podcast in a long time. Like I think on paper the dialogue is really fucking strong.
I think this might have been nominated for best screenplay. A few things that year.
It was nominated for best score and it lost to Soul, Pixar Soul, which obviously, you know, I think that's hard to top. You have to think at that time, dude, nobody fucking cared about Pixar, and that was like their one movie where it was like, oh, this is us being different, and they kind of like stepped out of the woodwork and like kind of made a name for themselves again. But I think this film got robbed in terms of best score because the guy that wrote it, and forgive me, I'll have to Emil.
Last name I can't pronounce.
I can't pronounce it either. I hate it. I hate that I can't because it's such an inspiring piece of music. I fucking love it.
It's unbelievably good.
Yeah, it's so fucking good.
It is for sure one of the highlights of the film for me.
It provides a feeling of enrichment. Because I think you have this score and a lot of montage of just farming.
They're doing something in unison to make a very dull thing feel like elevated to the fucking high heavens.
Yes. And one of the reasons why I like that, like, dude, I grew up next to a fucking cow farm, like a pasture. Like,
you did?
Yes. So there's a sense of like, I hate to bring in the theme so early, but there's a sense of like religious peace in this film. Like there's a groundedness to those moments. And something about the way the family interacts is extremely biblical. And we'll get there.
Okay, I'm sure you'll be laying it down for me later. I got some stuff.
There's a real profound element of really mundane, basic things that they elevate through those tools, you know, through the score, through the cinematography, which we'll get there, you know.
The reason I asked the question, what makes this stand out from the pack, is that even when it comes down to like slice of life movies that I like or even love, I find it scary to talk about them on the podcast.
Really? Why is that?
I'm always afraid that I'm not going to be able to draw enough from such like simple material, even if it is being elevated to great heights like it is here.
I think this one particularly, which this was only my second time watching this movie, dude. This is a movie that I can't watch often. Like, I can't. I just can't.
Understandable.
I remember the first time I watched it when it first came out to purchase digitally. I watched it. I had a beer. And I remember it fucking wrecked me. You know, it wrecked me in a way that, like, I wasn't really expecting. I mean, it still wrecked me. Like, don't get me wrong. Watching it again, it still wrecked me. But I think this time around, looking at it with seasoned eyes. And I think this movie might be like one of the most profound things I've ever seen.
Okay.
And there's like a lot of reasons for that. Again, I mentioned like somewhat of a biblical nature to the film. I'll be pulling really heavily on that theme throughout this conversation.
Okay.
It really didn't reveal itself to me until this time around. It's there, but I don't think this film hits you over the head with it, and I think you might have to look for it.
I think you're right, because for one, as a not religious person, I don't think I'm atheist, but I have like very little interest in religion. So I'll be the student, and you can be the master.
I'm no master.
I do have like, I'll have comments about its usage in the film, like its presence here, but in terms of like heavy, deep themes of Christianity, I'm going to need some knowledge thrown my way, you know?
I don't even know that I could really express it in the way that I would need to, but it's there. I'll try my best. I don't know that there's a particular story that I'm like, oh yes, you know.
Is there like a Garden of Eden thing going on here?
Not necessarily. More of the structure of the story. Because like, okay, yes, there is a religious element in the film. Like, you know, they go to church. They go to white church. You know, Paul, by the way, which is one of my favorite characters. I mean, the guy speaks in tongues, you know. And it's not the gift of tongues like in the actual Bible, where it's like, you know, you could speak other languages. When they were spreading the word of God after Jesus' death, you know, spreading the good news, they would have an actual speaking in tongues where they would be able to cross over and actually you could talk in your non-native language.
Ah, okay.
That's what it actually is in the Bible. Where, like, in America, in the South, I would say, I didn't live it, but I would say 60s, 70s, 80s, like, it became a very common practice where a lot of people call it gibberish and nonsense, and I've been to churches where they do that. And I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes it feels like you understand.
Really?
It's quite strange.
See, that stuff is like, I'm not going to say it freaks me out. What's a synonym for?
Makes you uncomfortable.
It's like so foreign to me. Like I literally cannot understand. Not to make this like a religious debate podcast.
No,
I don't want to go there.
I want to go there.
For example, when this character first shows up, wonderfully portrayed by Will Patton, character actor guy, who I'm sure we've probably seen in a lot of stuff. He's just one of those guys that blends in.
Right.
You can rely on him to do a good performance. But when he shows up in this, maybe it's the cynic in me, but red flags were raised. I was like,
he's the murderer.
I don't trust this guy. Like, I was thinking he's going to fleece them out of money or something. There was like a nut job bell ringing about
for sure.
it.
Because I'm pretty sure he's carrying a cross when we first see him.
Not the very first time.
Not the very first time?
Him.
Okay.
He like sells them a tractor.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they see him after they go to church carrying the cross. And he says, I don't go to church.
This is my church.
This is my church.
I'm going to be honest with you. I love that.
I do too. It's an interesting choice because like this behavior usually in film and maybe in real life would be relegated to craziness.
Right.
You know? And it's not. It's a very good intentioned man.
He is.
In the film.
He is. He's my favorite character. I think there's something really profound about his character.
He's probably my second favorite character. Him and Mamaw are battling it out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Grandma, I mean, you can't forget her. It's funny. I have a grandma that's kind of like her. Likes to play cards and didn't really bake. But, you know, I don't want to skip past Paul because I feel like I find this film's use of him extremely respecting of a person like this because you know that there's somebody out there like this.
Yeah.
They don't like make a joke out of him, which I found that really refreshing. I don't know what it is, man, but like Christianity is at like an all-time low in terms of like the way people are portrayed in media. It would have been really easy for Hollywood to just say fuck, and like make this weird, make this character an idiot. And he is like an honorable person. And the way they portray him was really refreshing.
It went against the grain.
Right.
For sure.
And he's so good to this family. I love that about him. Like, he really tries his best. He's like just so encouraging. He's an encouraging character. Steven Yuen, God bless him in this fucking movie, he plays a fucking broken man.
He does. He's a shell.
I mean, there are moments in this film where I do think he kind of is elevated in a way. But something about this film particularly, and I think it even, I don't know if you feel the same way, but the way they treat Will Patton's character of Paul, this is such a family-oriented movie where it's not really just a character. I think there's only maybe one character, and that being the daughter, that doesn't really get the same treatment that the other ones get.
I thought the same thing.
But just about every character in this cast feels really important.
Even with his limited screen time, he makes a pretty big impact.
Yeah.
I mean, less than 10 minutes total, probably.
Yeah, 10, 15. Not a bunch of dialogue, but he's there. He's a good side character. And, him at dinner, post-stroke and everything. But there's something about him that feels so authentic. And I love that. This is why I like slice of life films, is because you just have such a ground, like you have such a grounded story. You can just give like energy to like people. It's really not entertainment, Like, this movie is not entertainment to me. Like, all the great novels are not entertainment. They're like profound. They explore the inner workings of people. Like, why I love this movie so much is it's so rich and raw. Sorry, I'm gonna gush.
That's okay.
You're
allowed to do that.
This is my moment.
I like this movie a lot.
Good.
I think it's a very well-crafted, well-performed, and written film with a great score. I don't know if I love it.
Really?
I mean, I rated it highly on Letterboxd. I gave it like 4 stars or something out of 5. I don't draw the same level of emotion out of certain things. I'm very specific.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason.
Oh, yeah. You have a flavor, and so do I.
I do.
I get it.
A slice of life film that like really moved me recently, and you haven't seen this yet, and you fucking need to, is Past Lives.
Yeah.
Another Korean American film. This actually gives me a similar vibe in terms of atmosphere.
Right.
The scores are kind of similar.
And that's probably the best way to put it. Like, it is an atmosphere. There's something like, it feels like a walled garden. Like, there's something really special about movies like that.
It's like longing and dreamy and romantic about just living.
Yeah.
Even like the direction of these two movies is very similar. Did I tell you that I saw another film by this director like last week?
Really?
In theaters.
In theaters?
Yes.
What'd you see?
Lee Isaac Chung directed Twisters.
Yeah, what the fuck, bro? Did he really? That was him?
Yes.
Dude, in my head, I saw the commercials for that, and I'm like, oh, that's just like a no-name director that I don't give a fuck about. Like, yeah. I didn't think one bit. How was it?
Not good.
Yeah, good. I knew it wasn't going to be good. See, but that movie, with his name on it, seems like a corporate cash grab.
Someone somewhere in Hollywood, like, grabs these indie directors and is like, you're going to direct Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like, it's weird. I don't understand it.
Yeah, like Taiki Waititi. Oh, how do you say his name?
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, like him. He was an indie director, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, you're doing Thor."
He's made some good stuff.
Right.
It's the strangest thing. I only went and saw Twisters because, well, Olivia had been wanting to see it in theaters. It was like her aunt's birthday, and they wanted to go see it. I was the only one in the group that didn't like it, so take that for
right. I trust your judgment, you cynical bastard.
I am.
I love it.
In a weird way, there is like a tie-in between the two films, though. Like this Americana. Those.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Twister takes place like in Arkansas, Oklahoma, or Midwest U.S. type states. A a lot more country music.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like licensed country music.
Man, that's country America, Zach Brown and whoever the fuck. That's their movie.
Like Glenn Powell going like, woo-wee, baby. Like cowboy type shit.
Yeah. That's not for me. I like the original Twisters, original Twister. Elizabeth wanted to see it, and I just said, honey, I'm not going to theaters for that. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm just not.
We went on Tuesday discount night, which alleviated the pain a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't even like the original Twister.
Really?
Yeah. Great cast. Don't like the movie, though.
When I was young, I watched it when I was like probably 12. I remember it being good for a 12-year-old.
Loved it when I was a kid. Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Right.
Gave me nightmares. There is a tornado scene in Minari, which is also a tie-in.
Look, not to get super personal on the podcast, but like my parents are divorced. You know, I saw them fight growing up and stuff. Not often, but enough. And, you know, I found a great comfort in this movie because, albeit my parents are divorced and it didn't work for them, we'll get there. But ultimately, why this family stays together is really a showcase and a display of like what really matters. You know, people let pride get in the way of that. Mm-hmm. And I think this movie kind of like digs its way down into that rawness of relationships and love. And I find it extremely powerful. I think this cast of characters, the chemistry on screen is so good. I don't really think we talk about it much, but I think when you do these slice of life, simple movies, I believe so much in what's happening. Not a single point in the film where I'm like, oh yeah, there are actors on the screen.
No, there's nothing Hollywood about any scenes in this. And I can't imagine how difficult that is to pull off.
Yeah. Especially like the fighting. Imagine having to shoot that. Imagine the fucking air in that studio when that's happening. I mean, it's got to be, you know, it. And mind you, like camera-wise, we're down on the ground a lot, on the carpet. We're in a corner of a trailer. The sense of scope is very small, you know. It's a very intimate setting that we're in. In the way that the camera is positioned, let me give you an example. When Paul comes to dinner and he prays over the house and everything, and in this corner of the room, and Steven Yen's character sitting in the chair, pissed. There's something about, you know, Paul getting down on his knees next to the chair and being like, "Can I pray for you guys?" And him immediately show up early tomorrow. Got a big day, you know, a lot of work to do. He's putting him back in the, you know, in storage. He's putting him away for the night kind of thing, where it's like it's really raw. And then you have her in the kitchen. You know, you get to see her at the sink. Small things like that, having characters positioned in that way, it's just like these small, subtle things where it feels so real. The body language, the positioning of these people in the room, and like the way they kind of interact with each other in like these small ways. Like that scene alone feels really profound because it's like, up until this point, she's fucking hated everything about being here. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh yeah, we have a family friend coming over for dinner, and she actually takes to him. And then Steven, God, what's his fucking name? Is it Jacob?
Yeah, his name's Jacob.
Yes. Him kind of denying that, what he's like longed for in a way throughout the film. This is why, this is why I think this movie is so great. It's like these subtle little things that happen to this family and the way they just struggle. That's what makes it great to me.
I would love to rewatch this for a second time. I finished the movie last night, and I immediately restarted it, hoping I would take notes, but it was getting kind of late. I had to work this morning. Even in restarting the film and watching like the first few scenes, I was like picking up on new things. I really want to rewatch and just focus, like put a microscope to the husband-wife thing.
Yeah.
Because I'll admit, in the end, near the end, like before our third act climax, I was a little blindsided by the wife's decision to leave him. And I think there's so many more complex situations throughout the film that like You're right. There's something very deep and detailed going on in the simplicity here.
Yes.
That I would love to revisit.
A lot of it's not even words. The way that they operate in the film is they have an argument with their eyes. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the children being present. There's only really a few moments in the film where, you know, their innocence isn't protected. I guess I really feel for them because they are on their own, and there's really no point throughout the film where they like kind of let their guard down fully to other people outside of their family, and it like pushes them closer together, which they can't fucking stand each other, you know? And obviously I think that's one of the driving forces that kind of moves our film along and creates that tension. It's very subtle, but that's what this movie's working with. I mean, it is working within those subtleties, small things that happen. Like David becoming friends with a white boy, you know, that his dad's an alcoholic or whatever the fuck you know.
Yeah.
You get these small implications of that when he stays the night over there. It reminded me how much it was weird to be a kid.
Yeah.
You know, how weird that is.
Asking to stay the night at somebody's house.
Yeah. How strange, you know? It reminded me of being a kid, you know? There's a sense of wonder in these kids. I mean, obviously, especially David, which, you know, another point being like, you know, David has a heart problem, and that's kind of one of our problems throughout the film.
And he has a broken ding-dong.
Ding-dong broken. Ding-dong broken.
Broken penis. Rare W in terms of... That's a phrase I use now, by the way. In terms of filmmaking is good child performance here. One of the best, maybe, that I've seen. This little boy that plays David.
He's great.
Dear Lord. You know, with me saying I need a second go around to understand the wife-husband stuff, because that left me, like, a little cold this first watch. The heart and soul of the film for me is David and Mamaw.
It is. The reason it is that way is because they are driving forces of hope in the film.
Yes. It's the... to surround that
yeah.
What I read as a cold dynamic.
They're the characters that breathe life back into the film.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. It's really special.
It really captures, like, shy child not wanting to know somebody and then gradually being built up into allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
Even though he, like, makes her drink piss at one point.
Oh, shit.
That was something.
That was great.
The mountain water.
The old mountain water. Good boy, good boy.
Pretty boy. No, I'm not. I'm good looking.
Yeah. Something about their relationship is really special, especially the night before she has the stroke.
Oh, I knew it was coming.
Yeah. The grandma provides a sense of reassuredness to our characters because, like, they are so stressed out that they, like, can't love each other. I do feel for David because, you know, she's right. Like, who's got a fucking boy thinking like this, worrying like this, you know?
I think this actress won an Oscar, I think, for this performance.
She did.
Well-deserved, by the way.
I love her character so much.
You know, now that I'm thinking, does the grandma and Jacob have, like, a scene? They share scenes together, but
no,
they don't interact really, which I found kind of odd now that I'm looking back at it. I know he's got his thing going on.
Yeah.
He's really focused on the farm.
Yeah. In one of the things I love about his character, though, and the way that this film expresses it, is that he's a man and he's a father of a family. And there is, unfortunately, a need to, like, just do.
There's a coldness involved.
Mm-hmm. And he only gets that way as his anxieties worsen. There is a point where he tells David to stay back at the trailer when he wants to go help him, which is a complete mirror opposite of when they first arrive, where there's a sense of wonder and scope and like he's instilling a sense of real fatherhood, telling him that, you know, we have our own land, we can make our own food, we can provide for ourselves, you know, you can be smart. You don't have to pay somebody to do this. We can do it ourselves. And they're celebrating when they find water and things like that. Mm-hmm. And you get the complete opposite, where in the heat of their situation, he denies him that. That's the cold father.
It's tough. Yeah. It's first generation, like foreign, living in America for the first time. Not that I, white man with a podcast in my basement from Ohio, would know anything about this.
Yeah. You fucking suffered.
But I feel like that's a well-known stereotype.
Right.
This might even be like happening a lot today. Just work culture in South Korea.
Yeah.
Like businessman, like work. Like that's all there is.
And it's similar in like Japan.
Yeah.
Okay, I've gushed enough. I feel like I want to ask you some questions.
Please do.
So, if you don't love this film, and to be honest with you, I've really only grown to love this film over the years since I've seen it. Because I knew it was special when I watched it, but past that first watch, I don't know. I knew it was something great, and it might have been one of my favorites, but now I'm almost certain it's like in my top 10.
All time?
Yeah, probably.
Damn.
It probably has to be. If you don't love it, is there things about this film that hold it back for you? Or what doesn't work for you?
Things that hold it back. I just don't know if there's enough here that like interests me in
a way to return.
It's very strong in what it's doing, but I don't know if what it's doing is super interesting to me.
To you, right?
To me,
right?
Yes.
Outside. I was don't get me wrong. I knew recommending this movie that you would probably have that sentiment. Like I knew you wouldn't dog on the movie.
No.
Part of me knew that you would enjoy it, but I didn't think it was going to be something that you fell in love with. Okay, Moneyball. Talking about Moneyball. One of the reasons why I think that movie, why we kind of agreed on the same sentiment of like it might being quite literally like a fucking masterpiece. Like we couldn't dog it. We couldn't find a thing. I think that same sentiment applies to this film, but I think there are things about this film that are more catered entertainment-wise to me. The score. I think the score is much more like I could listen to the score on my way to work. Like that's...
Oh, this will get added to the playlist for me, for sure.
Which, it may grow on you, but I like religious themes and I like small stories and intimate stories. And I think that's on full display here for me, catered specifically for me. And I also like, Asian cinema. I just do. Mm-hmm. And this has a blend of subtitles, non-subtitled. There's just a lot of culture blend here. You have yes, these people are outsiders, but at the same time, they are very much working class Americans. They are trying to make something for themselves, which I find, I just find it really enriching. I don't have many other adjectives to describe. It's just really beautiful in that way. And I think it showcases humanity in a way that a lot of films can't.
I can't think of any super valid criticisms that I have against the film. I have questions, or I have backseat script writing ideas. There are dramatic elements that this film could have tapped into that it doesn't. And I don't know if it would have been better or worse. And I want you to give your perspective on this. One thing that was missing here that I was really shocked by, this is going to be a funny sound bit, but racism. There's no
racism.
You know what this film's missing?
No, you motherfucker.
That's what I thought this film was going to be going in.
Yeah, you would think that, you whitey. Jesus Christ.
Sorry, everybody.
I love you. You're fucked up. Yes, I see what you mean, though.
We're in the 1980s.
Yeah.
The deep south of Arkansas. Korean family moving in, fish out of water type stuff. The film kind of teases that these moments will happen, like them going to church and having to awkwardly stand up.
Yeah.
And the closest thing they get is like the little kid telling David he has a flat face.
Right.
And then they become friends. Like it's brushed off. Everything here is like so well intentioned where I'm like, where's the drama that they're gonna like, you know?
I can understand that.
It's a weird thing. Like everybody is like just super accepting.
Okay.
Which is a great thing. But
in terms of, for me, I can kind of understand where you're coming from. I do think if that was there, if there was sort of an act of racism or even they even tapped into some of those themes, I don't really think it works for the story per se, because I think that would be something that the family could get around together and it would be something that bonds them. This story particularly,
it's in the family.
Yeah, exactly. The conflict is within the family. And even if it would be maybe a little bit more accurate, I don't think it would work for the story. I think if it would happen and we have the same outcome that we have in the film, I would argue that we would be sitting here having the conversation of like, wow, that was unnecessary because it didn't do anything for the story.
Probably.
And it would have felt uncomfortable. And like, mind you, I don't even know that they would do that in a film like this today. You know, I don't know that they would. Part of me, one of the reasons why I can forgive that element missing as well is because I think a lot of their anxiety comes from them feeling like they can't fit in, like they need Korean people around. Like the whole point of them is to grow Korean vegetables and sell to Korean people, to a Korean market. But they are surrounded by white Americans and they're exposed to that. And I think even at the church, like some of the churchgoers afterwards, oh, you're cuter than a button, honey. You know, this sense of politeness in these people. Even like, and it's, you know, that's expressed through our character Paul as well. This is about a family that will hold on to their pride within the family, no matter how much good they have around them. And I think that theme alone is explored perfectly within Paul's visit, you know, to dinner. Something about, like, everybody's really mature in this script, you know? Everybody's, like, extremely...
They are.
So, I mean, it's hard to... I mean, except for maybe Mama, she, you know.
Thank God we love her for it.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know that that takes away from me. And to my point, I just think it would take away, and it would actually be a con.
I don't know if it takes anything away from me either, but I was just expecting it. I'm like, this is your placeholder drama.
For sure.
Like, if a film needs conflict...
It could have been easy.
Yes.
Low-hanging fruit.
Same thing with how I thought the Will Patton character, like, obvious bad guy.
Exactly.
You know? Yep. It's a weird thing.
I think some of that, what you're saying, like of a predatory type of person, would have been like the first guy that comes to dig the well.
Yeah.
But even that's just a respectful, you know, business disagreement. But
and then he's never seen again.
Exactly. Which we'll talk about in the end, but like, you know, we get that. We get a mirror to that. We get a finish to that in the end, which it's not about business. It's about who you know and who you're friends with. Type of thing. Which is very much a blue collar sentiment. It's not about who you can pay. It's about who your friends are.
What do you think about this technique that they're doing, by the way?
It's a real thing, man.
I'm sure it is.
It is. It's a real thing.
I don't have an opinion on it as a man that doesn't do farm work, but is there validity to that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's a thing, man.
I couldn't tell like what stance the film was taking on it. Like it ends with that.
It's a thing. Copper rods? Yeah.
I'm going to go out and do that tomorrow.
You should.
Find a stick.
Dig a hole, man. I feel like at the same time, even if it's not real, like it's an acceptance of the culture for that family in the end when they do actually do that. But we'll get there. I think you had mentioned earlier about you were kind of shocked by the wife's decision in the end.
I was, but that might just be like my lack of media literacy in that instance. I mean, looking back on it, obviously Jacob, he calls the shots. He's not listening to her.
Right.
Yada, yada. I caught that. I knew that was what was going on. I think it's the way she described her decision in the end. When things are going good for them, all of a sudden, and she's worried about like when things go bad. I don't know. It was a weird thing for me. Like, I'm sure you feel completely different about it.
No, I mean, I don't feel... I do think she is really harsh, but I think it's hard to understand their coldness to each other, but it comes from a place of fear, and it's when they won't let themselves be afraid together. Now, mind you, their decision-making, particularly Jacob's, of like putting them here against her best wishes and basically displacing them from a place that they were comfortable in. But as a man, it was eating at his soul not to have more for his family, which, I mean, trust me, I understand. I don't even have kids, and I'm like, I want out of my apartment. I want to live in a house. I want to have, you know, if my kids are going to be somewhere, you know, they're going to be in a swing set in my backyard. I'm not fucking raising kids in an apartment. That's just not how I am.
I feel that.
And I'm like, you know, I feel for his character because I can understand where he's coming from. And what's difficult about it is seeing their characters choose to fight each other rather than their problems feels a little close to home to me. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's, I mean, trust me, it's one of the reasons why I love the film is because I think it really showcases like family drama, and I'm comfortable with it. You know, it doesn't bother me to watch it. I think it can make a lot of people uncomfortable. Like I remember telling somebody, I got A Marriage Story, the Criterion Collection, one year for Christmas, and my uncle was like, "Who the hell would want to watch that? That movie's fucking, that make you feel bad." And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make you feel fucking fantastic, but it's real. You know, there's something real about it, and that's why I love this film. Like, there's a sense of realness. The way they treat each other feels more real because it is so much more common for people to fight each other, you know, for husband and wife to argue and lose their shit in front of their kids. You know, the fucking divorce rate is 50%.
Not shocking.
Yeah. There's something about, you know, you could flip a coin and not make it. And that's fucking scary. And if you have kids, there's something about having a family. And when that shit gets broken, there's something about it. It breaks the foundation of what life is. To know that like that's such a problem. I don't think adults realize that like all a kid cares about is like nothing. They care about nothing. You know, I mean, like I don't give a fuck. You know, if we were poor, I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's all you know.
Right. And like, but if you have like a strong family, like that's different. Or for like friends, for example, would you rather have 4 quarters or 100 pennies?
Right.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like that's where the fucking richness of life is. I think this movie expresses that sentiment. I want to talk about the theme of farming with you. I don't know if you caught this.
Explain away, please.
But like the film's name is Minari, and Minari is like the herbal, undesirable weed that grows down by the creek.
Right.
And their whole point is for them to farm these Korean vegetables out on the pasture and sell them. And what's left in the film, the only crop that's left to harvest is the Minari. And I don't know if you remember Grandma's monologue about Minari. Like, rich or poor, anybody can enjoy Minari. It's plentiful. You can use it as medicine. You can use it in soup or like a stir fry. Anybody can eat Minari. And it wasn't about selling it. It wasn't about making it. It was about like what it provides on a ground, firm foundation of like it's just food. And one of the reasons why I think there is a sense of biblical themes in this is that in terms of, like, I'm not saying Minari is, the good Lord Jesus Christ, but in the Bible, especially like in the Old Testament, the book of Job, or, you know, where Job loses everything and then curses God, and God's like, well, have I not provided? Basically, God goes on a rant of like, I am omnipotent. I do as I will, and you should be humble in face of that. Which, like, that's an extreme story in the Old Testament. Like that's
yes.
It's one of the last few. It's one of the last few books before the New Testament. But there is a sense of Christianity, which obviously Christianity is in this film, where God will test people, and for you to learn your lesson, you might lose everything. And that's what happens to this family. Like, oh, grandma comes along, oh, well, grandma has a stroke. Grandma's not grandma anymore. Oh, you think you need to sell these crops? Well, I'm going to take them away.
I did not see any of this on the first run through.
Right. And
that is smart writing.
Right.
I love that.
And I didn't really catch it. Like I like, okay, yes, the film is titled Minari, but the theme being like just the bare necessities of family and community that like really get driven home at the end. They were so afraid the whole time, but they just had to like live in this place and just accept community and love and a care for each other. Like you get Jacob runs, in the film. We're like, this whole film, we don't get that.
David?
Yeah. Like he's been told the whole time that he shouldn't run.
Right.
And he runs after grandma. Dude, I like well up. I fucking well up at the end of this movie. I can't help myself.
Dude, the combo of the scene, the music on top of it, it's heavy.
And it's not even scary music. It's
like uplifting.
The Minari suite. Well, and that's like the climax is not a fearful thing. It's like very loving. There's a sense of deep connection happening on screen. I think it's like one of the most special things in film, like that I've seen in a long time. Like I think this particular story, that moment, in the way they handle it, because it would have been so easy for it to be like this terrifying,
like misery porn type stuff.
And it's like, no, like we're actually gonna take the opposite route, and this is gonna be like the moment that brings this family together.
I was wanting to talk about the ending because I wasn't sure, outside of like how powerful all those elements come together to make a great scene, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Like the fire and the way the film ends. Like
there's a sense of completeness.
Is there?
I personally think so.
I think it leaves you enough to play with what comes next.
Right. I think I agree with you because you're a great devil's advocate, but I personally think the way that the themes play out through the film, there's such a disconnectedness, and this particular moment of them coming together, I think it implies that they work it out, because you don't get anything really of substance past this point. This is like
it kind of trails off,
right? And I think it says a lot without really saying anything dialogue wise. It's an action, it's an event, and I think it implies that there again the taking away of material and what they obviously just argued over for like the last 2 hours of this film. Knowing that one of them could have died in that shed is the moment where they're like, we got to stop.
I thought one of them was going to die.
Right.
I was fully expecting that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like this is like some happy, joyous moment. I don't mean to make it sound like, oh, it's a no big deal. Like it is terrifying, but it's
leading to something else.
Yes. It's such a deep expression of love, I think, personally. When I see it and I see them in the fire together, it's like, could you imagine being in a fire with your significant other? Like
I'd like to not imagine.
What I jerk off to and what you jerk off to is is my business. All right. But with that being said, like, it's raw. It's something.
There's something about these slice of life films that can be kind of loosey-goosey with your typical 3-act structure of a film. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them do trail off like this, where it's like, I think of Manchester by the Sea.
Yes. My dad was like, why? My dad was like, what was the point of that?
I fucking love the ending
of
that film. I don't know why that works to such a degree where, I'm not saying this in Minari doesn't work, I think it does, but there was something left empty for me. Maybe empty is too cynical of a word to use. Maybe I'm a basic bitch and I want Jacob's farm, like I want them living in a mansion at the end or some shit, But it's a weird thing.
See, the thing in Manchester by the Sea, that movie's about fucking trauma. The point of that movie is to say sometimes you just can't.
God, that is such a getter ending.
That movie is just sometimes you just can't do it. Sometimes you just can't. And like literally, these are words spoken by Casey Affleck where it's like, he can't. I can't. And this movie's kind of the opposite for me, where it's like they can. They are going to be okay. And there's like a level of optimism, I think, in the end of this film, regardless of like a little bit of the tragedy that occurs. There is a level of optimism where it's like, well, yeah, grandma has a stroke, but it's like also grandma's a part of the family now. That relationship's built upon that. And like the way that the kids look at her in the end of the film is completely different than they like want her to go away and now they're begging her to stay kind of thing.
Does Mamaw die?
No, Mamaw does not die.
There was a comment on Reddit. I was scrolling through just like reading what other people thought of the film. And someone said in the very final shot of the film where Jacob and the family are out like looking at the Minari plants, they said there's like a white cross in frame as if like to mark a grave.
Did I not see that?
I don't know how true that is. Take that with a grain of salt. Not that they buried grandma out in the fucking creek or anything, but
right. Maybe she did. Maybe I didn't see that. I was too busy drying my tears.
Fair enough.
I love the ending of the film for that reason. The scene it closes on, where it's like, grandma picked a good spot. It's like she was like a very wise character in the film. Where I think we even get earlier, we didn't really talk about it, but like when the snake comes, there's a snake, which is like, again, that was like a biblical imagery for me, like serpent. It's better to see a thing and know it's dangerous to have it rather than to have it hide. There's like a sense of wisdom, like, which again,
it's a great line. Yes, by the way.
And it's like, well, she's a very wise character, and again, I think that ties back to that biblical nature of, okay, well, like you could put that anywhere in scripture, and you would be like, oh yeah, that's something that's in the book. But I don't know, man. I don't really know how to express.
I know you.
Yes.
And I know what you like.
Yeah.
What you love.
Yeah.
When you love something like this, you love it on such an intense, deep level.
Yeah. I can't help myself.
It's a great thing. I'm glad you're that way.
I also think like that's the only way to like really truly love this film. Because like, I'm going to be honest with you. I understand a little bit of your perspective of like, well, it's good, but like at the same time, I don't know that. I knew that you probably would not connect to this film the same way I did. And that, like, I knew that. I knew that. I wasn't expecting much else, but...
I'm so sorry for what I did to Walter Mitty, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, Elizabeth likes it. That's all I need.
There you go.
But, to your point, this is not a film for everybody. I don't know that I would...
No good film is for everybody.
That's true. Seven Samurai is not for everybody.
No.
That's your favorite director's favorite movie.
Right. A wonderful film.
I don't know. I think it's very romantic. It's a very romantic film, which it's not like the Book of Job where it's just misery. There's a sense of redemption here. It's more of it reminds me of a New Testament type of story, if that means anything to anybody.
I will say that I am very interested in what this director might do.
Past Twisters. Yeah.
If he can go away from that kind of thing next. Obviously, like a great eye for, like, this is a good artist in that realm.
I'm wanting more from Emil, our composer.
I saw that they scored this movie called, like, The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Yeah, and...
that's supposed to be good.
Kajillionaire, I think.
I don't know what that is.
Indie film, haven't seen it. But he scored that movie as well. I don't know. I want him to do more. He's a huge inspiration. There's such a dreaminess to the quality that he provides here in this film. And I want to see more from him.
It's wonderful. Like,
yeah.
I don't think we can even sell it via words.
It just has to be. It just has to be experienced. There's really not. And I think that's one of the hardest things about talking about movies like this. That they are just kind of more to be experienced rather than talked about.
I agree.
It's hard to get there. It's hard to really. I mean, how do you express the rawest of emotion through words? It's very difficult. I think this movie does that for me. Like it's just a real foundation of human life, which I think is hard to do.
Are we in ratings talk? Or do we got more to go?
I think I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good. I just want people to know that it's a good film. And I don't know that I'll ever really be able to express the level of... I mean, I try my best, but there is a...
I think Minari has its fans.
Yeah.
From what I've read, it seems like mostly very high positive reaction.
This movie should have won Best Score. It should have.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, you know where I'm going to sit. I don't really want to call it a masterpiece.
Are you 10ing?
I'm going to say a 9. I really feel like really comfortable with a 9. I mean, I don't really know what else I'd change about the movie to make it any better.
It's hard to slap that big 10 on certain things. I want to do it all the time.
I do think the film's a little slow for 20 minutes before the climax. It's a slow film throughout, so like I mean that's really saying something, but there is a little bit of patience involved in this film. But for my standards, I think a 9 is really fair. And if it was just a random person on the internet seeing this, it's like a 50-50 chance for them to probably say the same thing. You know, I don't think it's a 10 though. I think it's 9, maybe 9.5. I don't know.
For me, I don't sit that far below a 9. I'm going with like just a straight 8. Well crafted, well acted, great cinematography. It is a good film on all fronts. But I think that extra boost is what emotion it'll evoke out of you. I think this one had been sitting in the tank for you for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really know that we'd ever get much more out of our conversation. It's like just really simple. It's like for me, like all the great novels. Like everybody agrees that The Great Gatsby's good, but like why? You know, I don't really care for it. But there are, again, like classics like Stoner. And I'm reading East of Eden right now, which I'm sure I'll feel the same way about it. But yeah, it feels like one of the better explorations of the American dream in modern times that I've seen. Interesting subject matter. And I think it'll age really well. I think it'll age with time. I think in 10 years, it'll still be a film worth watching. And I think that's saying something because there's a lot of fucking movies.
I can't disagree with you.
I eagerly await what you have in store, if you even know what that is.
I don't. So let's take a brief break.
Perfect.
And I will figure it out.
Excellent.
I want to explain my mindset to you and why I'm having so much trouble. I've had something lined up since after we did Blowout a few months ago, but then I came to the realization that I come to every year around this time, and it's that we're on like a 2-month delay usually in terms of recording and release nowadays. And I know if I don't do this now, I'll miss my shot for the year. You already know where I'm going with this.
I totally understand.
You saw my house today.
It's time, motherfucker.
I've got Halloween stuff out. And I want to do a Halloween-ish episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Halloween in August at the Getter household. It's a beautiful thing that happens here every year. It's like...
I did this last year with Evil Dead 2. I think it was August or early September was when I started throwing that around. Even then, this will probably come out like November 4th or some shit. I'm going to give you a choice, though.
Okay. I like choices.
And I feel kind of bad because I think you're going to hate me for both of them.
Oh, you motherfucker. I swear to God.
I can give you a third choice, optional fun one, if you want me to.
Okay. Now you're giving me the anxiety. Fuck you.
I'm sorry. First choice is a 70s movie. It is a long-beloved classic and a cultural phenomenon in the time that it was released. Choice 2, more modern film, similar themes and topic, and also a film that I think will be a classic in 10 to 15 years. Do you want a third choice?
What's the third choice? It's like I'm on a game show. What do I win? behind door number 5. It's a fucking piece of shit. Congratulations. What's my third option? Wayne Brady.
Option 3, it was released in between the time of option 1 and 2. It is also a classic. I feel like it's a very beloved movie nowadays, even more than it was back then. It's more fun and satirical.
I'm going to go with door number 1.
Door number 1?
Door number 1, Wayne Brady.
Cool. Okay. This is a film that I haven't seen.
Perfect. Excellent. Even better.
I've been meaning to see it for years now. It's William Friedkin's 1970s film, The Exorcist.
Perfect. Fucking perfect. I knew I was looking at it. I was like, I know it's that.
I know. You kept looking over there.
I was like, perfect.
This is supposed to be a great film, often cited as one of the greatest horror films of all time. Do you want to know what the other options were?
Yes, I do.
I'm kind of glad you didn't pick option 2, even though I kind of wanted you to, but it was Hereditary.
Oh, I would have fucking hung you. I would have fucking hung you, dude.
I almost didn't give you a choice, and that was going to be my default.
You motherfucker. Let's start here, and maybe next year you can fucking do that fucking...
Hereditary is a great fucking movie, but it's kind of hard on the soul, even for me.
Yeah, man. Perfect. That's what I need right now. Yeah. Going into this fucking election, let's watch Hereditary. Let's fucking... let's see human nature at its worst.
So if we're going in the devilish direction,
right,
then I think this will be a more digestible pill.
We just got done talking about like Jesus. You're like, all right, it's time to start sinning.
Hereditary literally would have been like the complete opposite, like family, and then Satan.
Perfect. Perfect. Oh, I love it. Well, I'm glad we didn't do that.
Olivia tried to talk me out of it. Yeah, honestly.
Thanks, Liv. Jesus.
I brought that up, and she was like, "Didn't you say that he hates that kind of stuff?"
Yeah,
and that made me want to do it more.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you are Satan. Look at you, Jesus. Let's make a man suffer for my pure enjoyment.
Oh, and option 3 was Scream.
Oh, okay.
But you've seen it, and I've seen it. You know.
Oh, Scream is great.
I like doing movies that you haven't seen before.
Yeah, this is more fun. This will be good. Wait, you haven't seen this movie?
The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Never seen it.
Wow. I'm fucking shocked. Okay, so this will be fun for both of us.
This gives me a reason to finally do it.
Good. Yeah, this is probably the only time that I would ever watch it. I would never seek it out. You know me. I like to live in the grace of the Lord.
I feel it.
All right. Well, that was fun. Time to talk about Satan next time. Should be good. Until next time, Getter, if you could do the honors.
Adios.